Hey everyone, I'm Jared Parks. I'm a course developer at Udacity and I work on the iOS Nano degree, and we're here at AltConf 2016 talking to speakers and people who are at the event, just learning about their stories of how they've gotten into development. And we're here with Elvis Nunez.
Hi,
Thanks for being with us, Elvis.
thanks to you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your kind of journey to iOS development?
Yeah, sure. I used to study software engineering back in Peru. After a while, courses in South America go a bit slow because they try to catch up with what's going on in the rest of the world. So when you actually get the course, you're a bit behind. So I started looking for different ways to learn, and I found the Apple course about iOS development in one, I think it was Apple, like, I can't remember really. So, sorry. So I started doing that, and after a while I started practicing on my own, maybe a couple of books, but there wasn't really a lot of material at the time.
What advice would you give to, we have a lot of students around the globe, to working maybe outside of your home country, or just how to approach that, whether it be in the States or anywhere else?
I think the first thing is don't be shy about learning English. There are still a lot of resources in Spanish, but it doesn't get you all the way there. Might just get you started. But having English is probably the first thing you should try on.
Outside of English, are there any other skills that you'd probably identify as being something you need to know to kind of get your first job as an iOS developer?
Try out different things. Prototypes is totally fine. Funny apps, that's useful. It's important for a lot of companies to see what you've done, and especially if it's in the App Store, because it proves you that you can actually finish things, which is one of the most difficult skills to have. It doesn't matter if it's just a small thing that takes you a week or something that takes you a month. It's important you just have a problem, and I would say that's the best way to learn. Just have a problem.
Absolutely. So what was the first app that you ever built?
I was a to-do manager. I think that's pretty common in iOS. So I wanted to have a to-do for myself.
So this week there's a lot of announcements coming out at WWDC. Is there anything in particular for you that you're excited to try out next?
I'm actually really excited about the Swift Playgrounds. I think it will open the door for many developers around the world to start doing this. In countries like South America, getting a Mac can be a bit more expensive than just having an iPad. Also for kids, a lot of parents don't really think about getting a Mac, but having a tablet, I think a lot of parents might consider that. So it could be a good way to start on Swift by having an iPad.
Would Swift be a language that you'd recommend to people just getting into programming?
Totally. I have been programming in around 6 languages already, and they all have this preconception or theories that you have to know in advance. Like, let's say C, that has memory management. So before doing something as simple as, let's say, like a Tetris game, you have to learn about memory management. And that's a huge block in front of you that you have to overpass before actually learning how to program. But Swift doesn't have that. It's quite simple, straightforward. Also, it helps you that it's type safe, so you don't have to hit the wall too many times. It sort of takes you by hand and moves on with you. I think it's a great language for people that are starting, and also for people that are really experienced.
Now for you, on the topic of Swift, do you work on apps that are both Swift, Objective-C, exclusively one or the other, or ones that interact?
I have been working on Objective-C until Swift 2.0 was released. After Swift 2.0 was released, I have been doing Swift full-time. Haven't really looked back ever since.
Yeah. Is there a particular aspect of building either iOS apps or just apps in general that you enjoy the most, like some part of that process?
For me, the most important thing or the most fun part is to solve the problem, to figure out what's the best interface that we can have Like how many buttons can we remove in order to solve this problem? Like if an app can be just a huge button that you press and then boom, that for me, that's the goal. So I have a lot of fun brainstorming how we can solve the problem in the different interfaces that we can have.
Is there a particular device that you like working for out of the others, like the watch or the pad or the phone, or just all of them?
I think definitely is the iPhone.
Yeah.
I think the watch is nice, and maybe TV also, but it doesn't have as many usages as the phone.
Right.
Because I believe like the apps for those platforms have to be extremely simple. Meanwhile, with the iPhone, you can have some liberties, can make it a bit more complex.
Can you speak to at all kind of how to work in groups of, a lot of our students, a lot of us, or just in general, work in isolation for some time when we're learning, but at some point you have to collaborate with other engineers, and especially since you have experience doing that kind of an international way, what advice would you give to students for working together with other engineers?
I would say getting into open source is a great way to start, because then you get to collaborate with people, and people that are really passionate about building things. At work, it's also nice to try to collaborate with them. Many companies have one app and one engineer, so collaboration can be a bit hard. But in open source, it's usually like whoever has the time to do it will do it.
Right.
So I would say that's a great way to start. And I would say that's pretty much how I started collaborating too.
Is if there was one kind of summarizing statement of encouragement to a new student that you could give, what would you tell them?
Find a problem and figure out how to solve it.
Yeah. Speaking of problems, has there ever been just like, what is the biggest problem you've ever had to solve, or like a really frustrating point in your iOS development career, and how did you overcome it?
I think the most difficult problem was to not overthink things. It's quite easy when you're making or when you're solving a problem to try to go beyond what you actually need. And that usually drags you down and doesn't help you to move forward, try different things. So I would say don't make it perfect at the beginning, but just make it work. Then just iterate over it. Eventually it will get better.
So Elvis, one of our students has asked, when you get stuck in a rut, a really hard problem, and in this particular case they've been stuck on the problem for a couple of days and they just can't seem to get over it, what have you done to kind of get yourself unstuck and get going again?
Just taking a break. I know a lot of people say this, but I'll say it actually works. Taking a break usually just clears your mind, and when you're back to the problem, it's usually solved. Other thing is just asking other people that have been into the same part, or like forums like Stack Overflow help a lot too. Just by writing your problem also helps you a lot to fix it. So I would say just start by asking you what's really wrong about this. Maybe you're solving the wrong problem.
What do you do to clear your mind?
I'll usually just take my dog out, watch some TV.
That's great advice. Well, thanks, Elvis, so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate you doing it.